and have your note packets out, open to where we left off. Understand, please, we should be on day 6, so check that off on your checklist. By the way, after day 6 is day 7. Day 7 is the first day that we have a review, or sorry, the only day we have a review. Then day 8 is your exam. Now, depending on our rotation, I actually think all of you are taking the exam, and this is whatever. Some people, I love that people freak out about this. Your exam is going to be on Monday, right, which is after the weekend, which for some reason there's some sort of device that you look at that erases everything that you've learned that happens over the weekend, and everything that you fight against that. So make sure you know your stuff when you come back. The test will be there waiting for you when you come in. It will count, though, on the second quarter, even though I guess they put the cutoff as being like this Thursday or Friday-ish. For those of you, if there's any anticipation of not being here, my advice is you get to pick when you want to go through and take it. There will be some kids going through and taking it on Thursday. You're free to go through and even take it on tomorrow, Wednesday, if you want to, and let me know. Personally, if you're going to miss on Monday, it leaves you either Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday in order to go through and take it. You can pick whichever of those days is best for you. But just make sure, please, that you make that decision and let me know. Yep. Okay, now, let's watch this. Unless you guys don't want to see what the answers are. Okay. You want to see that. Now, so here are 2 sample papers from somebody who went through and did them. These 2 should have been hopefully easy. There's more than one way to break down the natural log of 20. You could have gone through and done natural log of 2 squared times 5, or the natural log of 4, which is 2 times 2, and gone further. In any case, if that's what A is and that's what B is, the natural log of 20 would be A plus B. The other ones, when we go through and did them out, this question here, now, for some reason when I was looking, a lot of people were giving both of these answers in this section, which was not something that was happening in the others. Point breakdowns are condensing gets you 1, exponentiating gets you 2, solving and getting to here gets you 3, checking to reject gets you 4. Okay, it's kind of easy, at least from my perspective. And for the last one, you need to go through, there's more than one way that we can get this. You should be able to recognize when you plug in the p-value that you're going through and solving, or it's the p-value that you're going through and solving for the initial amount. So we need to, this person condensed and then divided both sides over. The one thing that was interesting, hopefully you see that it was a continuous model. Here was that person checking their answer. One thing that I hope we go through and recognize, where did questions 3 and 4 come exactly from? Okay, then never mind. Apparently, maybe that's why we had so many mistakes. They were exactly homework questions, as in I didn't even change them. If you go to let's do this. If you literally open your packets up, well, let's say this. Hands up, please, when you can find what page the questions that are on your quiz are on. This is what I love. Even the fact that I have to tell you 75 times now to go through and take out your notes after we go through and get your assessment done. Do we think we're going to come in and crochet the rest of the day after your assessment today? We're gonna knit. Who's got what page these questions are on? Tammy, what do you want to say? I don't know. That might be a good read, though. Maybe she's got a real good read as to what's going on. Now, looking at what we have, I will tell you all this. This is not, and you should be on day 6's stuff, just so you know for your unit exam. I would make sure that I knew this from you. Call it a hunch, but when I'm going through and planning for the exam, who knows, maybe I'm going to pick a question that references a half-life formula, so maybe you're going to need to make sure that you know what it is. And if I spent the time to go through and make this, maybe you should take the time and put pencil to paper. for 30 seconds and put a big old star around it so you can make sure that you're going to be successful on the exam if you actually want to be. Otherwise, you can stare at me again. Find someplace on your paper to go through because this probably will come up. This is one of the exponential functions that you're supposed to know. Again, you all complained extensively about taking a geo read where you got to a question and you didn't know how to answer it. So if you elect not to know this formula, that same situation may happen again. Make sure you know what all of that stuff represents. If you want to put the labels on it, I would as well. Just make sure you've got a really good read as to what this formula is and what it represents. You are expecting to do well. You personally would like to do well. I'm not sure, there used to be a deal over at White Tiger Tattoo in the Village that if you got a math formula, the tattoo was half price and you didn't need your parents' permission. I don't know if that's still the case. There's a lot of awkward, because there would be a lot of 8th graders that would go in and get the Pythagorean theorem done. A squared, B squared. Not really. Maybe. Who knows? Why don't you do wrestling, don't you? I'm always shocked. What's the big tournament that you had up at, yeah. That's the one that was in the gym, right? People, like, had to supervise it. There was a kid that was like, your grade, who had a tattoo. How does that happen? But I was looking like, that kid has like a giant eagle tattooed on his back, but it took like months, and then you look at the program and you're like, he's a freshman from like Gates. I'm like, what's happening? How do you get an actual tattoo? I think you have to be actually 18, right? And maybe he's just, what's that? Oh, wonderful. Who here would say that their parents would let them go get tatted up right today? Exactly. I can assure you, even now, my parents probably would be a little bit apprehensive if I went in. By the way, well, the other part of that I always laugh at, imagine when you're like 80 years old, how that's going to be just this giant blob, on your back. We left off, I want you to go through, all of you right now should be able to answer out and through up to A. Go through right now quickly and efficiently. Answer out A right now. And make sure you've signed it to your calculators if you haven't already for the 74th time. So let's start off in answering out A. And by the way, again, brace yourselves for it. When you see these word problems, do not expect them to be interesting. Don't expect them to be engaging. It's their vehicle of going through and numbing you down, and it's putting your head to sleep. Go through and look at this, and Marissa T., what would you do to answer out question A?
I put in 5 for T to figure out what the population was in 2005.
Okay, and then what else did you do?
And I wrote off the coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
So 2040.
So you got 2,000, and then what did that get matched with?
2005.
2,000 gave you what as an output? Sorry.
40 million.
Just 40, oh, 40 even, sorry. And then 2005, what did that give you as an output?
45.8.
And there's more after that 8, right?
It's 0.78.
So there's a contingent on it. Now, what would you do to find the average rate of change?
Put 45 minus 40 over 2005 minus 200.
Now, the only thing that makes me apprehensive is I would say this. I would say P of, now when you plug that in, you plug 2,000 into it, or did you plug a 0 in? Yeah, we plug a 0 into this, right? Just so I did. In order to get this as an output, you plug a 0 in here, right? Not 2,000.
It gave it to us.
Oh, okay. So this would be P of, we did this. And then to get the other one, you plug in a 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's how you go through and evaluate it out. Now, the reason that I'm so apprehensive and keep going back to this 2005 output is you need to make sure you're using the actual value. So everyone right now in your calculators, obviously that's going to be the most recent thing that you have typed in. Go into your calculators collectively. You should have those values in it. Now, I would go in and do this. Do out control division. So hang on, I do this part first, control division. Select this full value here. Don't use a rounded one. Select the full value minus 40 all over 2005 minus 2000. And do it all at once. So the change in y over the change in x. And what position do we want the answer rounded to? Hands up, please, when you can tell me. Yeah. 100, so what would that be? Okay, so on your papers, you need to be giving me this right here. And we act as though this is challenging. You actually had to do pretty much no math in order to arrive at your answer to this question. You had to do absolutely no math. You had to understand the concept, but there was no computation. So we would give out as a final answer 1.16, and it gave us the units, which is millions of people per year. You should show at least this in order to get to, well, to be honest, the only thing up here that you don't need to show, frankly, are the 2 coordinates, even though that's what it's all based on. If you're giving me the coordinates, I understand you're viewing it as a rate of change or a slope. Questions on that? Next one up, for B, based on the model, the solution to that equation gives you the number of years it will take country A to reach 50 million. Algebraically determine the solution equation exactly and as a decimal to the 1,000th position. Confirm that graphically. So when I'm going through and answering this question out, this is giving me one question to answer, but how many ways do I have to answer it? 2, I need to give an exact answer, which means I don't type anything in the calc, and I'm giving out a rounded answer. Now, what equation do I have to write out to start off B? Nick, what would you say? What's the equation you're going to write out to solve B? Yeah. And then what do you do from there?
I'm not really sure.
Who can tell me what we go through and do? What equation this is telling you to solve? Well, look what's up there. You can swap one of those components out. Yeah. Instead of writing out P of t again, what's P of t defined as? It's 40. Well, P of t is defined as 40 times e raised to some rate. So 40 e raised to the, what was the rate on it? 0.02 what? Okay. T, is that right? Okay, that's the equation you have to solve. Now, it says to solve it out algebraically. By the way, looking at that P of t, and maybe we should go back to the general P of t to start, what model is given for A? What type of model is population A modeled by? It's continuous growth. What is the rate of growth that's shown? Anthony? What is the rate of growth? 2.7%. What do we do now to solve this out? Tammy? What? Divide what? Yeah, we've got to go through and isolate what's being raised to a power. We said it before, but if you're struggling, your first step should be getting the base and exponent alone. So divide both sides by 40. Understand that that's linked together through multiplication. So I'd say e to the 0.027 t power is equal to 5 over 4, or 1.25, or 50 over 40. It doesn't matter how you do it. What happens now from here? Grace?
Divide by e to the...
No. Take a look at what's there. Look at where your variable is. That's going to key you in on how this equation is going to get solved. You could put this into log form. Can you solve it in exponent form, yes or no? No. So if you're stuck in exponent form, put it in log form. If you're stuck in log form, put it in exponent form. What would this be, Sean Al, if you were to write this out in log form? Now, who got another way of writing this out? Alternate but equivalent. Now, from here, looking at what you have, you've got to go through. I'm not going to the calculator yet because it wants an exact answer. What do you need to do in order to solve for t? Mickey, what do you say? I'm going to divide both sides by 0.027. So you go through, divide both sides by 0.027. That's gone. So your exact answer would be t is equal to, now if you want to do log with the base of e or natural log, it doesn't matter. All right, so let's do the natural log then of 5 over 4. You could do log base e if you want, over 0.027. That answer is exact. That answer is exact. There's no rounding in it at all. And no writing out some giant long decimal doesn't mean you're giving an exact answer. Now, how do you go through and round this to the thousandths? Well, go into your calculators and go into your calculators, do control division, and set up natural log of 5 over 4. And then you take that and you're dividing that by 0.027. And it wanted it rounded. Well, what would the answer be, Philip, rounded correctly? 8.265. Approximately 8.265. This right here is the exact answer. This is the approximate one. Now, it says confirm this graphically. What that means is you're going to graph this and confirm out what it is. Some of you, I love that you go through and take geometry, but dear Lord, they don't teach you much. Looking at what's there, if you're trying to solve this out graphically, this is very easy to do. Go to the original that you're working with, which is right here, and you have, the equation has two halves. You're trying to find out where they're equal to each other. If you graph them, if you graph the left half and the right half of the equation and find where they intersect, that x value is going to be the solution. That's what they should be showing you in Geo. So they've got two equations. There's a left half and a right half. I need you to go through, go into your calculators, and everybody do it. Go in right now. Let's add a graph. So go into, you don't need to delete all your docs. Just go into a new page and put graphs on it. And we're going to graph out, and don't look at me. It should be the same one on your paper. You've got to graph out the left half of the equation and then the right half of the equation. And yes, you won't be able to see where they cross. You won't even be able to see any of the graph. So go in right now, all of us. You're going to graph what's on the left of the equation and press enter. And then the second function is going to be what's on the right of the equation and press enter. So now when we do this out, some of your calculators might have sort of skewed graphs to begin with. Looking at what's here, go back, make sure please that we're all able to see the same thing. Once you've input your windows, or once you've input your equations, just stop where you are, and this right now, you can obviously see you're not going to be able to find the intersection. Does anybody know I shouldn't be able to see the intersection in this window? Does anybody know why? You're graphing y equals 50. Am I going to see y equals 50 in this window? No. That's part of knowing geometry. You're not going to see y equals 50 in here. So what we're going to have you do is we're going to have to do out a zoom. So when we're doing out our zoom, what you all need to make sure that you do is we're going to go into window settings. Don't do some, I like to call them zoom stupids because it takes away any thought that you might have. Now, we're looking to figure out where these cross. One of the lines that we're graphing is y equals 50. So let's go from negative 10 to positive 10, and our x scale will make 1. That's fine. But what do we want our y scale to be? Hands up, please, if you can tell me. If I'm trying to see this intersection, what do I want my y to be? Analyze for a minute. Process. This is part of being an actually enriched student, is that you're going through and saying, well, look at these two graphs. Obviously, I'm not going to see one of these when I'm graphing. What do I want my window to look like? Yeah, can you give me one that you want it to go to? All right, 59. Now, I'm going to go and make my y scale. Let's make it be by tens. I hate when the scale gets all screwed up because everyone starts freaking out then. Think you can just delete it and write 10? Maybe? No? That's you? It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Okay. Hit enter. Will that work? Or probably reject it? Go down to OK. Maybe it'll work. Oh, look at it. Fabulous. Now, how can I find where these two cross? Because the intersection is going to be where they're equal to each other, where the left side and right side are equal. Go into menu. We're going to go down to Geo. This is the first thing I found that's useful for Geo. So now, what else would we select? What do we choose next? You tell me. Points and lines. Intersection. Perfect. Now, this comes up too frequently, so we'll select these two. So you got to go through and actually tap on them. It doesn't matter where you click on them. Make sure you just select them. Now, some people go, well, wait a minute. Mine doesn't show enough points, right? You can hover over it until you get the claw, and then you hit plus on top of it. But some people always go, well, wait a minute, I can't get the claw to come up. Fabulous. Watch what we can do. Go into menu. Go down to settings for 9. See how it says float 3? That means it's going to show 3 digits. You want a great answer? Go down to like float 12. That's as many as we can float. Then go down to hit OK. And watch what happens. This, by the way, is how you change your angles when we do it later on. Go down to... Don't click make it. I wouldn't make it default. But click make maybe OK. Now, we may even need to do it again, but when you go back to that screen, what should you see? Do you need to hover over and do the claw? No. How many spots is there? Now, what did we say our answer was when we gave it before? What did you say? Okay, does this confirm or dispute what we found? Which one? Do you want to know when you do end solve? This is what the calculator does. It graphs the left half, it graphs the right half, and it tells you the first x coordinate where they cross. That's it. That's what the calculator does. Okay? Now, questions on this? And by the way, that means on your paper right now where it says confirm graphically, you all are going to go through, it went away from the screen. Go in right now and sketch a picture of this graph. And when we say sketch, that doesn't mean give me something that looks like you did it on a plane while it's landing. You can give a reasonable sketch of what this, can I do paste here? See this? By the way, which quad is this in exclusively? Which quadrant? Yeah, it's in quad 1. So if I'm you, I'd go through and really just focus on quadrant 1, show the two graphs, label them, and label that point of intersection with its actual coordinates. So when it says confirm graphically, and now do you understand why when you take this exam, obviously you're going to stay for a minimum of 2.5 hours, not for 2 that the state says. But second of all, you have so many options available to you to make sure you never get a question wrong. Never. Can you always graph two sides of an equation and see where they intersect? Sure. That's absolutely viable. Based on this model, in what year will the population of country A be greater than 50 million for the first time? So, you tell me, during what year will the population of country A be greater than 50 million for the first time? During what year, or in what year, will that happen? Read the question again if you need to. John, what do you want to say? I would say no. Can anybody tell me what they want to give as an answer? Ben? It's during 2008. It's during 2008. What's the first year that starts off with a population bigger than 50 million? 2009. But that transition, you cross that line then. Now this one does slightly need to be changed. Change this maybe to plus here. That negative should not be in front. For question D, that negative should not be in front of the exponent. Make sure, because I don't want someone later saying, mine doesn't do that. Make it so it's positive exponent. Got it? Now, what type of model is given in D? Read what's there. What type of model? What's the type of equation that's given in D? Marissa D, what's the name of that type of equation? Continuous growth. Can you please tell me what the rate of growth is? She's absolutely right, 4.2%. Now, we're looking at this, and it says, you tell me, during which year will the population of country B be greater than the population of country A? So it's asking us, when will country A have more than country B? Does anybody want to take a guess as to what we could do to solve this? Yeah. Perfect. Let's put both of them on a graph and see where they cross. And by the way, what's so terrific about the graph that we would be going through and giving? You could just go back and change the F2 from 50 into whatever you had it before as. So go back and change whatever your F2 was. Don't make it 50 now, make it whatever that alternate function was. 35e to whatever that power ends up being. Now, I'm actually going to do this, and I'm going to ask us, let's do some common sense here. Because I'm going to try to make this picture, my window, a little bit more accurate. Who can tell me what I can get rid of that I don't need to show in my window and why? This right now shows too much. What can I get rid of from this window and why? One person? 2? 3? This is just sort of a common sense thing. There's stuff on here we don't need to see. Okay? What's that? No, we need quad 1. Which quad can we omit? No, I'd say which one? 2. I can for sure say I'm never going to omit quadrant 3 or 4 because I don't think it's ever going down that way. None of the graph would ever be there, so obviously we can omit that. Why would we omit quad 2? Hands up, please, if you can tell me. Why we're omitting quadrant 2? No justification. This should be common sense. Philip? Not only that, there's more than that. This is just a real life thing. Yeah. Why? What's negative? Nope. Careful. The population's positive in quadrant 2. Why would we want to delete it? Amanda? The year is negative. The time is negative. Can you make negative time happen? Can that happen? Oh, boy, I remember back in the year negative 74. Those were the days. Things were wonderful. It was a simpler time. Living in negative time. Get real. So let's go in. We're going to make ours now. By the way, if you pick this, it tells you the intersection point already. You don't even need to do more work. Let's go through, though, and make it so we're doing a smarter Zoom. Go into your Windows, and let's change our Windows settings levels. Let's make it, let's say, -1 to let's try out 15 so it's not so cramped, or 20. You get to pick. And our Y min, that's okay. I mean, we don't need to have negative Y values. Let's make our Y max something like, I don't know, 100, so it's a little bit easier, so everything's not so cramped. And go through and press enter. And you can go through and give out this sketch as your answer. And here's what we, well, now, I'll say this. I actually even want to change this. Can anybody tell me why I don't like this window? It's kind of vertically cramped. So what I'd like us to go through and do, hello, Mr. Blask, how are you doing today? Who can tell me how I want to change my window now? Because we made a modification. Obviously, we can't have negative time. What modification, Corey, do I want to do to my window from here? This is just me being a little OCD, but I don't like. See how it's all smushed together? Okay. So what do we want our new Y max to be? Royce? $150? Watch this. Do it. Just go ahead. Do it. Do it. You can see the blood. I wish I had a little blood pressure monitor on right now. Did that help? Not so much. Do you want to edit it? Okay. Let's try 75. I think that's going to give us a little bit cleaner of a window. Everything's not going to be on top of each other. Now, I'd say this works for me. Now, here's what you all are going to go through and do to justify the answer selections that you're going through and giving. You're going to sketch this out in quad 1. What things do I need to make sure? Let's say this. Let's say you're me, right? You're a genius. What are you going to go through and do? What labels are you going to go through and affix on this graph? Thomas, what do you think people are going to need to show? What would you be outraged and offended if it wasn't there? You want arrows on your graph? That's a start. What's something else that you want on your graph? Megan? Oh. There you go. I want you to clearly label your intersection coordinates. What else do we want to go through and have on there? Connor? Yeah, let's label them. John, were you going to add more? Yeah, and by the way, that's another thing. See how we name those functions? You don't need to give the whole big old equation. You can do, what were they named, Sean? M and what?
M, T, and then B was T, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Whatever they're labeled with, you can use that function notation as opposed to the regular one. But give me an actual graph. Some of us think that these garbage graphs that are all that you look like someone's punching you in the back of the arm while you're trying to write the graph. That's terrible. Like you did it on a plane while it was landing. It's nonsense. Who wants to look at that?
Label your axes too. What's
See?
Y and what's X? Time and whatever Y.
Do they want, well, so you're saying, is it better to have them label it as time or just Y now? Okay. So throw the time on it. Show what the heck it is. Because as we talked about before, why did we need quadrant 2? There you go. And why don't we need quads 3 and 4? You can actually have negative people. There's a lot of them, but they don't count. Now,
because a graph, you should be able to look at a graph and independently know what it's talking about without having to look at the question.
and that's the part I'm telling you now, I don't know how this got. You give stumpy, nubby, inaccurate graphs all the time. All the time. I don't know why somehow you have made it through 11 years of formalized education being designated as enriched students. You got all this way, and I look at your graphs, and it looks as though I had, taped a pen on my dog's hand and had him draw the graph to do some sort of interpretation. That's not what we need. You can give very, very accurate and precise graphs. Now, and by the way, what's our final? We did all of this spiel. Sean K., what's our final answer on this going to be? We did all of this, right? We didn't even answer this question. Mm-hmm.
Use the graph for that.
You could interpret what the graph is telling you. Okay, so what would your answer to that question be? Based on the models, what year will what year will be the first year in which the country B is greater than country A? What's that? I'd say no. Wait. Yeah, I'd say it's during. That's why I always put that on there so the person knows, because it's the first year that it happens is 2008, because it happens in 2008. The first full year that they're greater is 2009. So that's why I put during that amount. Now, here's what, I spend so much time on these things. Let's take a look, please, at the first one. Environmentals capture this. Well, I'm going to say this. We didn't get as far as the other sections did. You guys went a little bit longer on the quiz. So what we're going to tell you to do is this. With what you have, I'd advise you to understand the way to solve an equation like this out. It wants the population to be 300. Solve this out, cross multiply. What I'd advise you to do, find 4 questions tonight from the word problems and get them done. 4. Anticipate word problems showing up obviously on your exam. You need to be all-stars. Do we understand? Yes or no? Don't complain about your grades. Do better, period. And it looks like, by and large, you all did much better on this quiz second time around. If you've been doing the homework, things should be very easy for you. If you're not, obviously that's going to lead to difficulties. Do your best. Make sure your calculators go in the right spot, please, and plug them in on the sides.